Checking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and other international leaders have expressed their condolences after India's worst rail disaster for decades. At least 288 people have been killed and around 850 injured in the accident in the eastern state of Odisha. 3 trains were involved. 2 passenger trains collided when one derailed and both then crashed into a goods train. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed to punish anyone responsible.
I
am deeply pained. It's beyond sad and very disturbing. The government will leave no stone unturned and will provide the best treatment to the people who've been injured. The relatives who we've lost can't come back, but the government is with their families in this hour of grief.
The Prime Minister has stressed the importance of forging a close and candid relationship with the US President ahead of their White House meeting next week. Rishi Sunak is expected to attend a baseball game with business leaders and political figures in Washington, D.C. ahead of holding talks with Joe Biden. Despite shelving plans to broker a UK-US post-Brexit trade deal, he will also seek to build closer economic ties. 31 people have been arrested in connection with plans to disrupt the Epsom Derby, including one protester who ran onto the track as the race began. Activists from the group Animal Rising had threatened to cancel the event, despite a High Court injunction banning them from doing so. The group said they wanted to protect the horses and were willing to put their bodies on the line. They accused the police of heavy-handedness and of abusing their powers. A man has been arrested at the FA Cup final at Wembley for wearing a shirt which had an offensive reference to the Hillsborough disaster. The back of the man's shirt featured the number 97 and the words "not enough." 97 Liverpool fans died in 1989 as a result of a crush at an FA Cup semi-final match against Nottingham Forest in Sheffield. Metropolitan Police say he was arrested on suspicion of a public order offence. Well, at the FA Cup final, Manchester City beat their rivals, Manchester United, 2-1. Ilkay Gundogan scored after 12 seconds. That's the fastest goal in FA Cup final history. United's Bruno Fernandes equalised, scoring a penalty at 33 minutes, but Gundogan scored another to restore City's lead in the second half. They're now on course to complete the treble, winning the Premier League, FA Cup and Champions League in the same season, which takes place next Saturday. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, the nation's favourite newspaper review show. I'm Nick Dixon, the nation's favourite presenter. And I'm joined by 2 of your favourite panellists, Lewis Schaefer, who's just happy to get the work, and, of course, Cressida Wetton, who's just happy to be on dry land. And for those who didn't get that joke, she lives on a boat. We talk about it quite a lot on
the show. What are you going to do when I sell it and I live in a building again? Am I fired then?
I'm going to say, remember when you lived on that boat? Have you thought about this, Cressa? Your surname is Wetton, and you live on a boat. You're like a wet and get it?
Endlessly.
Like
endlessly.
Do you believe in normative determinism? A quick question.
Apparently.
Does it feel weird that, like,
watercress, that's the one you're missing.
OK, we'll work on that next time. Lewis, how you doing? I noticed you wanted to butt in there.
Well, we have the calendar's been printed, as I said last night, and it's on its way. We've printed dozens and dozens of these things. They're going out to the people out there. This is a very funny calendar designed by Lucy Harmon.
OK, I'm not even sure that's legal, but all right, Lewis just promoted his calendar. But let's have a quick look at Sunday's front page, as it is called, headliners. So The Observer has stupid Sunak COVID scheme to be focus of virus inquiry, and that's about Eat Out to Help Out, which we'll be talking about in a minute. The Mail on Sunday goes with Labour's class war on Middle Britain. The Sunday Telegraph has PM wants 2p tax cut before the next election. Can't wait. And also share a hotel room, asylum seekers are ordered. The Sunday Times has Ukraine's new weapons plea to hit back at Putin. The Sunday Express, autumn tax cuts to heal Britain. And finally, The Star on Sunday, have a day off psycho chatbots, and that's about AI. So let's get into it. So let's start with The Observer, Lewis, and they're having a pop at Sunak's Eat Out to Help Out.
Well, it seems like the Tories are going after each other, and they're a little bit... What it is that Sunak under fire as quote-unquote stupid, eat out to help.
You're nailing this.
You know what? This gets me so angry that I can't even read it. No, because they had this eat out to help out scheme.
It was designed to thwart you, Lewis, I think. Is your blood sugar OK?
You know what? It's not going to be now, because my blood sugar can go up under stressful situations. Remember, so this is about happened 3 years ago, and Richie Sunak decides to give people money to go eat out, to get people back in the business of eating out, going out, of spending some money, because they were locked indoors. And this was in August, when the COVID rates were way down. And the people who were the scientists are saying he didn't listen to us. But the fact is that who would you trust less? The scientists who've been proven absolutely wrong about this thing, or Rishi Sunak, who hasn't had a track record of being wrong at that point?
Well, so you're angry that he didn't listen to the scientists?
No, I'm thinking that they both suffer from something called the Ferguson-Neal syndrome. Have you heard of this?
No, interesting.
Where the greater your credentials are, the more you're an idiot. And that's based on Neil Ferguson. It's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's like you see somebody and they have impeccable Oxford, Cambridge, degree after degree. They've got a track record of leading amazing organizations, and they don't know anything.
They're educated fools, as Coolio once talked about.
OK, well, there you go.
Yeah, remember Coolio, the rapper? That's my frame of reference. But, what do you think, Professor? Because I wonder if, this is like Boris's evil revenge. Like, he's revealed his WhatsApp messages because he knows that there's something that makes Sunak look bad in Eat Out to Help Out. But I have to say, I liked Eat Out to Help Out. I thought it was good.
Tell me about it. Yeah, let us out. I mean, I didn't like lockdown at all, full stop.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. No, not a fan, not a fan. I mean, and all the impact on mental health and all the rest of it, we needed to get out. We needed to see people. Some people were having illicit affairs with their colleagues and having a nice time, but other people, we needed to...
When you said that, it cut to Lewis Schaefer's name, as if you meant Lewis Schaefer, and he probably was, but that's not... I think you meant Matt Hancock, but...
I did mean Matt Hancock.
Or Neil Ferguson. Neil Ferguson, who was having an illicit affair while this thing was going on during lockdown, which meant if it was as bad as they said it was, and for him to have an illicit affair during this pandemic, it meant he was basically a murderer.
Yeah,
okay.
Well,
by their own
possibly.
I'm not sure I can. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have to apologise for that or something. But I mean,
well, let's say he was lying and there was nobody going to die from the pandemic. It meant he was lying. By him going out to his girlfriend and him doing something with his girlfriend, he was basically telling everybody that don't worry about it because we're not going to die. But if it was something dangerous, if the pandemic was dangerous, and I don't think it was, but maybe it was, then...
Well, to be fair, he was seeing his girlfriend in a clandestine way, which I thought was nice of him. But so just briefly on this, to sum up the Eat Out to Help Out, I mean, the argument is that it led to a spike in infections. But to me, you know, the infections have got to spike at some point.
Absolutely.
And it also led to a rejuvenation for businesses that badly needed it.
We were always told it was about flattening the curve, like just slowing it down so that the NHS wasn't rushed.
Yeah.
Not that what we're going to be in lockdown forever.
You're right. You're right. I think this is all silly. I think it all feeds into the narrative, we didn't lock down enough. I think it's all a bit silly.
And it was before. Why did it spike? It didn't spike. Is because it's your standard flu virus shape. This started in August. And so by the time September, October comes, flu spikes anyway.
Well, it sounds like we all agree on that. Did anyone watch the FA Cup final, except me?
I didn't watch it.
My team lost. You don't even know.
Yeah.
I know there was something loud going
Man United
on
lost
Wembley.
2-1 to Man City. We got a fluky penalty. We probably didn't deserve the win, but it was a pointless, miserable waste of time. I don't know. Never mind. Congratulations to City, I guess.
As well.
I guess for Ofcom regulation reasons, I have to say well done, City, even though I feel physically sick. I don't know. Let's move on and do the Mail on Sunday, Cressida.
OK, secret plan by Starmer to hit the well-off by cutting their access to GPs, libraries and bin collections. Labour's class war on Middle Britain. So last night, Labour was accused of declaring class war on Middle Britain because Starmer is saying that he's going to slash services in affluent middle-class areas. That doesn't sound like it's in his best interest, does it? I mean, isn't that his key demographic?
Well, it sounds like it's a preference for cities over rural. So you remember when Sunak was sort of caught on video speaking, I think it was in Tunbridge Wells, and he was, saying, look, here's what I'm going to redistribute some resources to you. And everyone's like, oh, he's just protecting the rich. But what people don't seem to realise is rural areas have their own challenges. So I'm from Cumbria, of course, so there are massive challenges, like getting to a hospital. They keep shutting them down. You have to go even further, finding a dentist. And people don't care about these things. And Labour is a bit too city-centric. That's their base, isn't it? Yeah. What do you think, Lewis?
I think that's what politics is. Politics is taking money from the people who didn't vote for you to give it to people who did vote for you to make them happy. And that's what he's doing. I mean, you can't blame him for wanting to punish rich people because but the truth is, a lot of the Tories are now rich. Not the Tories, a lot of the Labour are now rich people. But the fact is that what this shows, for those playing the Lewis Schaefer game, centralisation, is that these local areas should be paying for their own schools, for their own libraries, for their own GP surgeries. Why should it be? Everything is centralised here. It's too centralised.
OK. And so just for the viewers that don't know, when you say Lewis Schaefer game, you mean if you say centralisation, the death of love, buy my calendar, they all have to take a drink at all of those, or if you just keel over of gout.
Are we part of a drinking game right now? Is this...
Yeah, it's part of the show, Cressida. Get with it. So let's move on, I think, on that bombshell and do the Sunday Telegraph, Lewis.
Big news. Big news is the Prime Minister, who knows he's going to lose, Prime Minister wants a 2p tax cut before the election in the Sunday Telegraph. Sunak seeks to reduce the national insurance or the basic rate to incentivise work as inflation falls. And he knows he's going to lose, but he's thinking, let's just give him something, because if he wins, he's going to take it back or may take it back. But this is not even going to happen now. It's going to happen next March, right? I think. So it's just... He wants to lower tax.
Yeah.
We need all the money. This country needs all the money.
It's nice that he's lowering taxes, but I'm a bit gutted that it's 2% from, from national insurance or income tax? Not even both.
It's not a lot, is it? It's like the terrible husband coming home drunk with a bunch of flowers and saying, I'll do better next week. Yeah, it's just oh, really.
Nice analogy. Do you want to do the migrants one as well? So we've got share a hotel room, asylum seekers ordered.
Yeah, because there was a bit of a little kerfuffle outside the Comfort Inn in Pimlico, and I know Pimlico in London. It's quite a nice place. I got a friend of mine who lives there.
You visited that. You passed
through the Comfort Inn.
You camped out on the pavement with the asylum seekers.
And so what it does is it means that the asylum seekers are living in nice hotels. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be treated nicely. I am saying that. I think.
Are they living in nice hotels, though, or just...
No, I think more strictly they did a protest because they were in nice hotels, or they were in hotels in Ilford, I think, and then they didn't like those ones, so they moved. Is that right?
No, I think
or they were
it's
the
the
good
people
ones?
in Ilford, because it's not central London. I think they've got better hotels in terms of facilities, and the people who are in London are being crammed in, which is probably true in all the youth hostels in London as well, because it's London, you know. And so they're saying this isn't a good enough standard of living.
Yeah, and there was a strange video from Richard Tyson. I do like Richard Tyson. He was on my podcast, but he interviewed one of them, and I'm sort of torn because he was sort of mocking the guy a little bit because they're saying, oh, we don't have enough big enough bathrooms, we have to share. And I'm torn because the way they're living is, let's face it, it's not luxury. At the same time, though, obviously a lot of people are annoyed that they're even in the country. So I feel bad for the individuals, but I also feel that they shouldn't necessarily be here. So I'm kind of torn on that. I think it's just a bad situation.
For the individuals, it's appalling, isn't it? Because their life's just on hold. You know, they can't pursue anything. Yeah.
But I would also, having said that, I would put immigration at 0.
Yeah.
We don't have time, Lewis. Is it quick?
I agree with you. It's a difficult situation.
Send Lewis Schaefer back. So what are we going with on the Star, Cressida?
In the Star, and you thought AI could not get any more evil. Have a day off, psycho chatbots. I hope we've got the picture. So there's a picture of me with a hangover.
That's the only good
No, it's a
Is that
chatbot.
you?
With a bottle of, what is that, a danger biohazard, a bottle of COVID or something, I don't know. Chatbots are planning to exterminate humankind with COVID-style virus, according to boffins. Do we feel relaxed about that?
Yeah.
I mean...
I think what he's holding is a safe and effective vaccine, Cressida.
Oh, I see.
This is the new way that AI is going to kill us all. There's so many ways it can kill us. It's got a choice. Drone attack, enslave us somehow, vaccines, not vaccines, of course, they're safe and effective, but a virus. Yeah. What do you think, Lewis?
I think this is the typical story, which is panic building. They just want us to panic about something. And they tried to get us to panic about the COVID, and we did panic about the COVID, but I don't think people are going to panic as much.
Well, that's interesting. Do you think this time around people will just, when the next virus comes, you don't think people will be as compliant?
I personally don't even believe in viruses.
All right. Well, we're going to take the break, but I think the Star, maybe they do want to panic us, Lewis, but in a very funny way. That's it for part 1, but coming up, more immigration failures, non-crime hate incidents, and cow genocide. See you after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go. But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway...
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News. every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with the delightfully unpredictable Lewis Schaefer and the predictably delightful Cressida Wetton.
Oh.
I did a nice one. Look at that.
That was brilliant.
I giveth and I taketh away. So let's do the Sunday Telegraph now with a story about unwanted migrants. So who better to go to than an American club comedian living in the UK, Lewis?
I am an unwanted migrant. I myself am unwanted amongst myself. And if you want to send me home, send me home. Okay, this
send
is
him back.
Send me back. That's the next thing. We'll collect money. I should set a Patriot thing. Anyway, Braverman's Curbs. Suella Braverman is my favorite name for anyone. Suella Braverman's curbs on foreign students watered down over tuition fee fears. She had this brilliant idea that they were going to cut the number of foreign students into the country, and this is the law of unintended consequences. It's like, not so fast. If you take away the foreign students, the universities are going to suffer because they haven't raised the fees since 2017. So that's 6 years. It's been capped at £9,250, and that 21% of the school budget it comes from these people, and the rest comes from the federal. Whatever you call the state, whatever the government is in this country.
It's called the government. Isn't this a bit of a racket, though, Cressida? I mean, look, you've got these foreign students come over to do courses that are often fairly pointless. They want to do it to get a visa. Then they fund the university so they can afford to take on British students who are probably doing pointless courses in the main anyway.
Well, I hate to be cynical, but I just think fewer people should go to university. That's my answer. I looked at the figures. 1994, there was about 1 million people going to... Oh, it's me.
No, it says boat-dwelling comedian. I was just laughing. Carry on. Don't let that put you off.
No, this is great. In 1994, pre-Blair, there was 1 million people.
Says it again. Carry on, though. You're making a serious
There's a
point.
lot of people going to university. Look, I went to an ex-poly and did a philosophy degree. I know about pointless degrees, all right?
Right.
I now live on a boat. My brother is a self-employed builder. He hasn't got a degree. He's got a 3-bedroom house. So
exactly. I've got an English literature degree. I went back to my hometown. The plumbers had houses. We were cheated.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cressida, I cut you off.
Well, I think you get the gist of it. I blame Tony Blair.
I blame
we
Blair.
were told that more and more people should go. And, of course, if more people go, the degrees are worth nothing, so then you have to get a master's and so on and so on.
Yes, grade inflation.
And do we really need all these degrees?
Absolutely.
Well, you know what it is? She's saying the same thing is happening in America. Basically, the university system is not for the people involved. It's just to keep those universities going, filled with...
Yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's nonsense. I mean, and also, lastly on this, the fact that Suella Braverman can't control her department. I mean, I like her, but she can't. They just do what they want. I mean, she comes up with it. We know we have to reduce immigration. We say this is an area where there's a big problem and loads of immigration we can immediately cut. Then they go, no, you can't do that, and nothing happens. Anyway, we've got to move on. Let's do the Sunday Times. And police will now record non-crime hate incidents only when necessary. So presumably never, Cressida.
I did wonder that. Freedom of expression protected in new police rules on hate crime. So in the new code of practice, well, actually, let's give the definition of a non-crime hate incident. This is it's when the non-crime hate incidents are when the offence is perceived by a victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice. So perception's really important, right? This is... I mean, sometimes your behaviour might be...
I didn't want to say it, I think he's done a few non-crime hate incidents to me. I perceive them as such.
To you, everybody. Maybe it's everybody.
So in the new code of practice, which is going to come into effect today, this will protect freedom of speech by ensuring officers record non-crime hate incidents only when absolutely necessary. And, of course, the problem is that brings in police judgment, doesn't it?
Yeah. So they're changing it to where it's clearly motivated by intentional hostility. But that is still a little bit subjective to me. And then it says, the real risk of escalation causing significant harm or criminal offence. And that is reasonable. But there's probably already a law for that. That sounds like incitement. What do you think, Liz?
That sounds like incitement. What do I think? You can't leave it up to the police. That's why there's rules and regulations. They're not known for their... I don't want to say anything bad about the police, but I mean, they're not the brightest people in the world, really. And they all have control issues. Anybody...
All of them.
Every single
I don't
one
want to say
of them.
anything bad about them, though.
Yeah.
Let's just get that clear.
No, why do you become a policeman? Because you think no one is respecting me.
Okay.
Why do you become a comic?
Because because you want someone to stop hitting you.
All right, on that disturbing note, let's do The Observer with a story about something bad the Tories have done. A bold new direction for The Observer there, Lewis.
Yeah, well, this is the billionaires have won. According to this, they're speaking. English pubs are forced to close after owners demand full rent for lockdown. So this has to do with I don't even understand it really, but this is
it's the Geese and Fountain pub.
No, stop for a second. Let me try to pull myself together.
Have a go.
On this.
Yeah, I should let you try on your own.
Some pubs are not tied to the people who own it. Where I come from, every pub is owned by a guy, one guy, or it's owned by. This is where people lease a pub, like you lease your house, and then you can do what you want to do in your house, and then when they want to kick you out, they're allowed to kick you out. So what they're saying is these people didn't pay rent during the COVID time, and now they're being asked for rent, and they don't want to pay the rent.
Yeah, so it's the Wellington Pub Company. It has 850 tenants, and the Geese and Fountain is going to permanently close because they didn't want to pay the increase. The idea was that we'll give you a reduction, but you have to sign a lease for 5 years.
Yeah.
And they said no.
Yeah, exactly that. They didn't want to... So they got a different offer, but it was no good to them either. They didn't want to do it, so they resisted it. What's really bizarre about this is the pub advisory service is saying some pubs have got to pay 100% of the rent. Some pubs it's been completely waived, so there's no consistency, which is just so... as if lockdown wasn't unfair anyway. I mean, these poor people have tried to run a business for 3 years with their hands tied behind their back.
Yeah.
And now it's...
I know. To me, it's not so much a story of, like, the evil Tories as the evils of lockdown, which punished so many people in hospitality. And I grew up in a restaurant, so I know all about this.
Yeah.
And it's just horrible. And just quickly on this, I just saw a Twitter video from the new CDC director called Mandy Cohen, and she was just joking.
Mandy Cohen?
Yeah, and she was joking about how she called up her friend who was working for some governor and said, like, oh, are you getting rid of professional football? Yeah, so am I. Cool. Basically, much like the lockdown files with Hancock, they were doing it in an arbitrary way. They were laughing about it, and they were shutting down people's businesses, and I just find it so disgusting. Anyway, that was a little rant from me. Let's do the Sunday Times now with a story about the dark side of exploiting badly paid workers, Cressida. It's not all good.
Jobs for rent, the black market behind your takeaway. Yeah, pretty much exactly what you just said. Food companies allowing couriers to let out their profile. So if you're an Uber Eats delivery person, you've got a profile, and if I was doing that, you could pretend to be me for the night. And it's not even pretending. It's perfectly acceptable. I'm amazed.
It's legal.
It's legal. Well,
it's mad, isn't it?
It is completely mad. So
Lewis could rent out his profile, basically, to a more competent comedian, and you go and it's Paul Cox, and Lewis is like, yeah, I've rented it out.
Yeah.
Paul, go on, sorry, Cox.
And then Paul might not get his fee because Lewis might close the account, take the money, and then Paul...
And also, Lewis is charging him a 20% commission.
Even to buy the... Yeah, so some of these guys... it's just not funny. They're going to work with $3.50 an hour if they're lucky, and in some cases then at the last minute it gets taken away from them. They can't do anything because they're not allowed to be here. So it's horrible.
It is horrible.
Go on, Lewis.
You know what?
We don't. We really don't. We don't unless you say.
No, it's what do you expect in this country? Or in America, it's the same thing. What do you expect? It's like that's right. There's no enforcement of rules and regulations. The people shouldn't be in the country. I shouldn't make a big deal about this because I'm here illegally. But,
and you also deliver pizzas at night, which I didn't like to tell anyone, but you brought it up. All right, well, I think we nailed that. I mean, look, it's one of those stories, much like the early one about the migrants, where I feel bad for the individuals involved and also feel like it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't really be legal.
And I feel
if there were if they made sure that everybody who's in the country is here legally, then they wouldn't be able to take advantage of these.
But that bit about Lewis renting out his profile was my favourite bit I've ever done on Headlines. But let's do the Sunday Telegraph. And the Irish government are planning a cow genocide in the name of climate change.
Oh,
Lewis.
my God. I mean, you know what? Being on this Headliners program has destroyed me because I don't want to think about this thing.
It's made you.
It hasn't made me. It's crumbled me because it's Irish farmers revolt over plans for cattle cull to meet green target. So the people are buying into this climate change malarkey. I'm not saying there isn't climate change. I'm saying I don't think there's climate change. But so there isn't climate change, and because they blame cows, right, for creating methane, they don't fart them, it comes out of their mouth, is that they want to get rid of 10% of the cows in Ireland to make sure that they meet their climate goals, which are going to change the world's CO2 level.
It's completely mad. And annoyingly, for balance now, Lewis, I have to say that some people do believe in climate change or something. But Cressida, what did you think of this cow genocide?
I think it's horrible. I think it makes me feel like there won't be food security, which is supposed to be important, isn't it? You know, like everyone, we're always on the brink of World War III. We want not that I live in Ireland, but for Irish people, we want some homegrown stuff. I saw this interview recently with Yumni Park. I really like her. She's a North Korean defector. And she said every environmentalist would love North Korea because we have to eat bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, OK, we've got to go to debate, but basically, this is very annoying. It's more net zero nonsense. I feel bad for the farmers because they're already struggling to recruit people. Now this, and who's going to want to be a farmer after this? We've got to go to break. That's it for part 2. But coming up, the non-binary Olympics, the Bible is banned in Utah, and another hit piece on the top chi, Andrew Tate. See you after the break.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political budgets.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with the Sunday Telegraph and Cambridge University have weighed in with their contribution to the English culture doesn't exist genre, Cressida.
Pretty much. Anglo-Saxons aren't real, Cambridge tells students in effort to fight nationalism. So they're going back to what we would call Anglo-Saxon people and saying they weren't a distinct ethnic group, so it's just a mistake, we shouldn't say it. And if we do say the Anglo-Saxons are encouraging us to be nationalistic, but wouldn't you think this applies to every group everywhere in the world? Isn't that,
you would.
I mean,
weirdly, England and Britain, we're the only culture where we just have to hate ourselves and uniquely punish ourselves and say we're evil and racist. I mean, France doesn't have this. I was talking about this to Lord Frost on my podcast the other day. It doesn't matter. France doesn't have this. They just have an inherent patriotism. Other countries don't have it. We're supposed to... There was a bit in Douglas Murray... I was reading Douglas Murray's book, The Strange Death of Europe, because, of course, I was. And there was a bit where Bonnie Greer came over, and she was telling us, she's American, you don't have a culture, really. You sort of flexible and adaptable. You don't really have your own culture. What a thing to say. And it's incredible. We have this unique self-loathing where we think we either don't have a culture or we have to feel bad about it. It's like Morrissey says in the song, he's been dreaming of a time when he can stand by the flag and not feel, racist or partial. Why is it inherently evil and racist? And it says in the article, and I agree, we've imported it from America.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yeah, but I think you're wrong about that, because I think British people have been patriotic. I think they are patriotic. I think it's just now that it's been imported from America, because the term Anglo-Saxon in America denotes a certain, almost an attitude. There's something called a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, a WASP. And that denotes that would be the equivalent of Jacob Rees-Mogg in this country.
Yeah, but you had the WASP because that wasn't necessarily the norm in America. That was like a special thing. It was like an upper-class white Anglo-Saxon. Yeah. To say white Anglo-Saxon Protestant in England is almost meaningless because that's what everyone is or was at one point. So it's ridiculous to hate yourselves for that.
But I think what it is that as a country is failing, you begin to, and as people are failing, you begin to doubt yourself and your position in the world. And I think this is what's happening here. You want to just shake Britain and say everything, you're amazing, and kick those foreigners out.
Here's the fundamental problem I have, and it says in the article. So the argument is that Anglo-Saxon has been used by racists, particularly in the US, to support the idea of an ancient white English identity and should therefore be dropped. Jimmy Savile did charity work and ran marathons. We all have to stop doing that now. It's absurd, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it can't come down to the poorest use of something means it has to go in the bin. I mean...
Yeah.
Well, I am Jewish, and I can honestly say, what is a Jew? Am I the same kind of Jew as some other kind of Jew? I don't know what you're saying. I think it's totally
Well, I was just saying it's not necessarily inherently racist to be English. I think we all need to sort of get over this. But now we've got top institutions like Cambridge University pushing this, and it's all a bit woke and annoying. That's all I'm saying. Sunday Telegraph again. And apparently it's unfair to have a non-binary category in sports. Presumably because there's no such thing as non-binary, Lewis.
Well, that's not exactly what it is. According to this, it's non-binary marathons could be illegal, say campaigners. And so what's happening is across the world, they're having these non-binary categories for men who were born men who became whatever women. I don't know how to say it.
Isn't it that they have decided they're neither?
No, and so what happens is they believe their gender is neither. Okay, yes, you're right. Thank you for listening.
I thought she was right.
Yes, gender is... So they've set up a separate category, a woman's category, which no one's interested in, a man's category, which people are interested in, and then they have a separate... Sorry, no one's...
Lewis Schaefer, everyone. There it is. If you want to tweet him about what he just said, women... But yeah, look, I mean, Cressida...
I thought the point was that they hadn't set up a non-binary category. And that the women were angry because they felt that they couldn't compete with people who had been born as men and were now running with them.
No, I think they were setting it up, but effectively it would be another category men could dominate in.
Right. And the women are just this is what it is. Can I just tell you what
Yes, tell me what it is.
This is very unlikely to be what it is. Go on.
Okay. I just think that the women are envious because they say now, men have two categories because the gender, the non-binary, the men are going to win that too.
That is what she's saying.
So the women want another category which only women can win in. Maybe...
Here's a crazy idea. Let's just have men and women's categories. It's just a crazy idea I've got. Because we had another story the other day of an open category, which took away the men's category. It was open and women. That's stupid. Then you've got this, which is men, women and non-binary. That's stupid. Some people say have a sort of in-between category, but would anyone really watch that? Let's have men and women.
I've got a better idea.
Is that transphobic?
I've got a better idea.
Maybe.
No one's interested in women running, and women shouldn't run because it's total... Whether they like it or not, or whether they should do it or... Oh, my God, this is going to go... This is the worst show. I know you do, but it's totally
not at this
wrong.
level, but...
It's completely unhealthy.
What would you have, Chris? You're a woman. If you were an athlete, you'd be the one that was most affected by this. What categories would you have?
Well, I go running by myself. I've got no competitive genes whatsoever. I don't know. I mean, as long as the non-binary category, nobody's compelled to compete in it, are they? So if you wanted to and you had been born female...
Yeah, I take back. I'm going to do Lewis Schaefer and take back what I said. The only way to do it is to have a third category, I suppose, isn't it? Right? Men, women, and then another category.
You know what? If women are equal and they are humans, As they
claim to be.
As they claim to be. Just have one category, people who are running. And you know what? Even the men who are running, they shouldn't run. It's so unhealthy. It's bad on the body to run. It's basically creating stress, which creates death.
Okay, we've got to move on. This has been it's been good to enjoy Lewis Schaefer's last show on GB, possibly mine as well. Let's do the Sunday Mirror. And a school district in Utah has banned the Bible. This is insane yet crushingly inevitable. Cressida.
Yeah, Utah primary school bans the Bible for vulgarity and violence, sparking confusion. It is quite confusing, isn't it? You wouldn't expect the Bible to be banned in Utah. But apparently there was a parent who filed a complaint about the Bible being taught in school, and it said it contains incest, onanism, bestiality, prostitution. I don't know if I can say all of them.
Don't say all of the words.
OK. There's some other words. And, I mean, I haven't read it in as much detail as you probably have, Nick, so I can't guarantee that all these things are in there. But some people, this particular parent is saying it shouldn't be taught in schools.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's bizarre as well. This is happening in Utah, which is known as sort of Mormon country. It's where the Mormons went when Brigham Young took over from Joseph Smith. It's a long story, but the Mormons obviously respect the Bible. I find it so strange it's happening in Utah, but what seems to be happening, as far as I can understand here, is that...
Why don't you ask me what's going to happen?
Well, I will in a sec.
OK.
I'm just going to say one more thing, because what's happening is it seems to be a war between... They brought in this thing saying, you can't have sexualized stories for young children, and so that's been brought in. Then they've hit back, basically saying you can't have the Bible. Yeah. Now it's Christianity versus wokeness. Go on, Lewis.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's tit for tat. Is this person who made a protest against the Davis School District is basically saying, well, you banned the book in Florida. Ron DeSantis banned books in Florida, so we could play the same game here, and that's why there's going to be civil war in America.
Yeah.
Well, or we could just not ban. We could not have a book ban, which is...
No, but every different place is going to have a book. And they're going to fight over it, and it's make...
Yeah. Some of them actually do need to be looked at. I mean, if you see these books for very young children, they're encouraging all sort of strange, far too adult sexual things they shouldn't be reading. There is an area where you have to say that that's not for kids. And then they're hitting back as if that's... Yeah. OK, we'll ban the Bible, which is absurd. But they hate Christianity. There's a war between the woke and Christianity. It's bound to happen. Yeah. And then it's, like you say, it's taken to the next level. Hopefully not civil war, but it is getting pretty nasty. Let's maybe move on and do the Sunday Times and asking, is it acceptable to block out noise from your co-workers? Now, this is something I always ask when I'm on with Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't get a chance to read this story because I was on my earphones when Martin, the producer, came over and gave it to me. So this is, they asked, are headphones at your desk ever acceptable, according to the Sunday Times? And so it's a debate, you know. I mean, I was surprised that people are in the office. Like, this building here is 10 stories of nobody in it.
They're all working from home, like you said the other night, on looms. So, yeah, well, this is the problem with this, as I see it. They brought in the open plan office, and then that was a scourge to introverts, because we need to put headphones in. I worked at a place that was basically someone's front room as a startup, bit weird. Yeah. And if you're trying to write and do so-called deep work, as it's called now, you're trying to write, you're getting into it, then someone nudges your foot or something, or something happens, and you can't concentrate. So it's impossible. So, of course, you need headphones. It's a solution to open plan offices. Cressida.
Well, I would get rid of open plan offices. I mean, I spent 10 years struggling away miserably in admin. I think I'm quite introverted. Not present company accepted, but big open plan offices is horrible. I feel like I want to have my own little cell. So, have headphones. I think it's a good idea.
All right, let's do this next one, because this is one I care about a lot. The Sunday Telegraph with another hand-wringing middle-class hit piece against Andrew Tate. Cressida.
We need half a show for this, don't we?
Yeah.
What my teenage sons really think of Andrew Tate's toxic masculinity. So this is, the first bit of the article is a woman describing her family in the car listening to an Andrew Tate podcast, and she claims that it's really awful and that he's being interviewed by people he doesn't understand, they're making fun of him. Tate was oblivious. That doesn't sound like the Andrew Tate I know. No. Because I've put some hours in listening to this guy now. I'm up on my Tate. And I don't think... You said you think you've heard this.
I've watched the whole podcast, so I'm almost 99% certain she's talking about the Your Mum's House podcast with Tom Segura and his wife. So what happened is, because I've been following Tate for a long time as well, Tom Segura used to mock Tate and have these videos mocking him, and Tate would do reaction videos to them. Then they finally got him on the show, and actually they got on really well, and it was hilarious. It was one of the things that built his profile because he is funny. This is the thing people miss about Tate. So when she says here that, oh yeah, Tate was oblivious and he said bring 2 coffees, he was joking. It's fun. And Tom Segura is a comedian and he was getting involved. The funny thing was Tate, as a non-comedian, was funnier than the comedians. I just think this is the reason I call this a middle-class hand-wringing hit piece is that's what it is. It's like Tate's from Luton. You know, I understand him. People I speak to, my barber understands him. But these, I mean, I couldn't believe this wasn't the Guardian. It's the Telegraph. But these broadsheet people don't get him. Lewis.
Well, I'm reminded of the Lenny Bruce trials when Lenny Bruce was put on trial for his bad act, and they read the act, and he said, "How are people going to find my act funny when there's a cop reading my act at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it was said in the basement?" It's like Louis Schaefer. I hope you find this funny, and I hope you don't take me too seriously, even though I believe every word that I say.
Yeah, but there's a few things. Yeah, it is a bit like that. He's a bit like the Eminem of our generation. You know, everyone's like, oh, it's so outrageous. But really, there's a lot of good things Tate's saying. Now they've got this guy here, Mike Nicholson, who's bringing in the progressive masculinity program, which is hilarious. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, that made me. As soon as I hear things like, whenever somebody starts talking about getting away from traditional masculinity, I often think, they mean getting away from being masculine.
Yeah.
To be fair to this guy, he does go on to talk about it, and he talks about. Yeah. You know, OK, I get it, men need to speak.
They're trying to get rid of the burden of performance from masculinity, but you never will. It's just how you tackle it is the question. And they also insult his father, which annoys me, as he was a chess genius. Anyway, we've got to go, unfortunately. That is it for this section. But coming up in the final part, McDonald's helps you lose weight, a bad sex life causes dementia, and we ask Lewis, is it OK to wear Speedos? Unmissable TV coming up in 2 minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's look at The Observer now, and a man who lost weight eating only McDonald's. Now, this must have you questioning everything you thought you knew, Lewis.
It did on the headline, and then I read the story, and this is an amazing non-story.
Take a drink, lads.
Is U.S. man eats McDonald's 3 times a day for 100 days, and his weight falls off. That's amazing until you find out that he was eating half portions. So anybody can lose weight with half portions. Anybody who's got type 2 diabetes can get rid of their diabetes by eating half portions. That doesn't mean it's because at some point you're not going to have any fat to lose, and you're just going to be eating your own muscle. So there's a video. This guy McLeod, I think his name is Michael McLeod. You can Google it. McLeod eating McDonald's for 2 months. He just ate burgers, and he came out healthier after. He just ate meat. Just ate
I'm
the
going to
meat.
do it. This is brilliant. Just eat. Well, it's calories in, calories out. You can't beat that. So if you eat half portions...
You can beat that.
Half portions, Lewis. It says it here.
It does say
this
it there,
works.
but it is not
You've been
calories
lying.
in. It is not calories in. It is not It is... obviously, calories have something to do with it. But some calories... Some calories promote fat storage, which is fructose, which is sugar.
True.
Okay.
And protein's better because it's harder to break down.
I'm quite impressed that he was able to eat half portions of something that's full of sugar and salt.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he make his life easier?
Iron discipline.
Like, you hear about these mad diets. Oh, just have a handful of M&Ms. And it's like, no, don't do that. Eat a courgette. It will be easier. There's no vegetables. I'm not impressed. Can we have a follow-up in 5 to 10 years and see if he's still alive?
No, you know what? The vegetables are deadly. Louis Schaefer does not eat any vegetables, and I don't recommend vegetables. I don't recommend exercising. I just recommend.
I do exercise, lift weights.
Yeah.
You can still lose weight. I'm going to prove it to you, Lewis. I'm going to lose weight in a different way to you, and I'll win.
You will, but will you be healthier? You're just putting stress on your body, and you will die sooner.
Nonsense.
And you won't win.
If anything, I'll die later than you. Let's make that bet tonight.
Does the audience ask the audience, how old am I? How old am I? Write down on...
He's 44. Everyone.
Please say 44, or we'll
I'm
never hear
definitely
the
going to
end
die
of
later
it.
than Lewis Schaefer. Let's put bets on. But let's do The Observer again. And a small town in Ireland is banning smartphones. I didn't even know smartphones had reached small towns in Ireland.
Much easier to say, Irish town unites in smartphone ban for young children. So all the parents have got together and said, we're not giving our kids smartphones until senior school. I think that's brilliant. There's 18,000 people in this town. I grew up in a town of 5,500 people.
That's big.
Is
I'm from a tiny village.
I think this is because they can get on with doing what kids do in small towns, drinking cider and smoking and all that.
Old school.
Yeah, I think it's good. If everyone across the board does it, you don't feel like you're the odd one out. That's what one of the parents said.
Any relatively brief thoughts on this, Lewis?
Yeah, it's just a prelude for more state intervention in the lives. So they're going to start with the children. They'll go knocking on people's doors. I hear you've got a
No, but it's not state. It's a small group. It's small, local.
This is how it starts. It starts with
You know what it is, Cressida? It's the centralised death of love non-story, if you ask me, with diabetes. That's all I'm saying. Let's do the Mail on Sunday. And a bad sex life in middle age increases a man's risk of dementia. Now, you'll be fine, Lewis, because you're not really middle-aged anymore.
No, I am not. That's why it didn't worry me. But I am actually in the age category of the people that they studied. And this is from the Gerontology Society of America. A bad sex life in middle age raises men's risk of dementia. And I didn't get a chance to read the story because it used the word linked, correlated, all these mealy words except the word caused. And so what it says is that we don't know if people, if you have a bad sex life because you have dementia, maybe you forget to have sex, or because the other way around is because you're having a bad sex life. You think to yourself, why bother to think? Because my sex life is so bad. At the end of the day, these men were probably on a high-carb diet, which causes...
I knew you'd get back to that. Cresta, what do you mean? You're not a man, but you could help these men.
Thanks very much.
Sorry, that was improvised.
That's what I love about working here. It's that kind of encouragement.
Don't call it encouragement. Call HR. What he said was outrageous.
Call it a meeting.
Yeah, I should call HR. It's probably worth a fortune. I don't know. Levels of testosterone. I'm really interested in hormones. I think that's probably important. One of the theories is that men who have worse sex lives may have lower levels of testosterone, and that's important.
Yeah.
So I'm...
OK.
Does that answer the
We've got
question?
to move on. I'm still laughing at what I said.
I'm stunned.
I know you're always laughing at what you said.
Well,
at the end of the day, listen to me. At the end of the day, high cholesterol helps build testosterone, and the brain is made up of testosterone.
Right,
the older you get, the more cholesterol you need.
We've got to move on. Let's do the Sunday Times now. And the cost of hen do's is rising. And I suppose we should have known that blow-up penises would be subject to inflation. I'm so sorry, Cressida. I went with that. It felt right.
Coming on my hen do, that will be £1,200. So apparently hen do's are expensive. Well, we knew that, didn't we? I heard somebody once say that you shouldn't have a wedding until you've been together 10 years, and then you should have the wedding according to how, like, spend as much as you feel like at the time, which I think is quite funny. I don't know. The second half of the article is warning us to get insurance if we go on a hen or a stag do. That sounds like good advice. Will you be having a stag do?
Why do you ask that question?
Because, Lewis, I am under the impression that you are engaged to be married.
Why do people need to know our business?
Because I think I'm very interested to know if because everyone goes on each other's do's now, don't they?
Yeah.
Stags and hens, we're all going everywhere. If I was on your stag do, how much would it set me back?
I'm going to tell you something. The way men spend money, they wouldn't even spend that much money. They'd just be drinking at a cheap flight to wherever they're going to.
Yeah.
And this is a death of love thing. Because men see this and they think to themselves, why would I want to spend $1,200 on my wife going out and whatever she's doing? At the end of the day, this is one more reason why women are unmarriable today.
Shocking scenes, but we've got to move on. Let's do one more story in the Sunday Telegraph with the question, is it ever OK to wear Speedos? Something anyone who bought Lewis Schaefer's calendar will also be wondering.
Yeah. Well, it is OK if you look as good as Lewis Schaefer does on my all-meat diet. And is it ever OK? Yeah. I think it is good. You can, if you look great, like Mark Spitz, who won all those things. You probably don't even know who the guy was, a swimmer. But if you look good, I think
you've got to flaunt it.
If you got to flaunt it.
And Eastern Europeans can wear them for some reason.
Because they don't have a belly sticking out over. Because they don't have type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease.
Cressida, in 35 seconds, any thoughts?
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I would apply it to men and women. I'm not a big fan of the naked dress, and I'm not a big fan of Speedos. I think you can express yourself more with clothing.
OK, we've got 22 seconds. Lewis, do you want to plug your calendar? Speedos is July, I think, isn't it? You and the Speedos?
Why do you do this?
Is it tasteful?
You said at the start you had the calendar again.
I didn't. I said
I wasn't
it's
listening.
been printed and it's being sent out. There's no more orders available. We printed out all the copies that we needed to.
Well, as much as I want to talk about Speedos, Lewis, we've got to do the front pages. We've got to go. We've got to do it. Sorry, you've been great, though, honestly.
Have I been?
Yes,
good?
The show's nearly over, though, I'm afraid.
Started off badly.
Let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. So, The Observer has stupid Sunak COVID scheme to be focus of virus inquiry. That's about Eat Out to help out. Mail on Sunday, Labour's class war on Middle Britain. The Sunday Telegraph has PM wants 2p tax cut before the election, and also share a hotel room, asylum seekers are ordered. The Sunday Times, Ukraine's new weapons plea to hit back at Putin. The Sunday Express, autumn tax cuts to heal Britain. And finally, The Star on Sunday, have a day off psycho chatbot, which is about AI. And I'm back tomorrow at 11, so please join us. Or if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. But for now, it's good night, good morning, and God bless.
Why did you...
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience